It goes back to what I was saying before about the values-based education and how, or the values-based curriculum, and how I am using science to teach values. So then the big question is the values, and then the objectives is what science I'm using to get there.
Just a few comments. So you want to go ahead, because I was part of this process. I don't want to. Please go ahead. I'll go after you.
I just think that when we're looking at big question and objective, I hear what you're saying about values, but a big question is not only values.
Yeah.
It could be a mastery. It could be a thinking skill. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think we must be very careful not to say it's always a value. I think it's good that it is values, but it could be a mastery or a thinking skill objective, and then you've got your coverage stuff and your objectives, and then that comes to the big thing at the end. So I just think we need to be very careful that big question doesn't, you can't say it is a value or it is a mastery or it is a thinking skill. Yeah.
I don't think it's an either or.
No,
I think it can be what you say it is, but it also can be like, because I know
Absolutely.
she's an English teacher, so I'm just thinking like, you know, a lot of that content is about values.
That's right.
So
But
it's a very good space to do it in.
But a science teacher, I know it can be values, but I don't want a science teacher to think, oh, well, it's got to be values. It can't be about a mastery type thing, you know.
I think if I can just add to that, when Mike was basically just coaching me in how this all works, I mean, the example that he showed me when he was teaching back at KIP in the States, and his big question was, why is it important to wear a helmet when you're riding a bike, for example? And that would cover a unit of about 3 or 4 weeks, and within that unit, momentum will be addressed, gravity and all of those sort of things. So I completely agree with you. I also want to just clarify something. At LEAP, the approach we take into curriculum and the implementation of the curriculum is one of how can we make sure that the development and the growth of the child is sustainable. And pure content-based academic teaching just doesn't allow for that. So what we're trying to do is to have a values-based curriculum, and what we mean by that is not to teach values through content, but to activate values through content. And how we can do that is to make the content a lot more personalized, a lot more meaningful. The examples that we use, for example, can be used within the context that the child is familiar with. So it's really just using the content to activate values so that the content itself holds, not from a space of up here, but from a space of here and here. So finding the wise mind between the emotional and the head space. I want to also just speak a bit about the why behind this, because I don't want you to underestimate the huge amount of work and engagement that took place before we could even introduce this with our staff. When you introduce something new, particularly as deceptively simple as a lesson plan, many teachers, especially those experienced, might see that as, who the hell are you to tell me this, you know? Like, are you saying that I don't know this? Are you saying that I can't do this myself? And so we tried our best to plan for that. And that's why we focus a lot on engaging on the why of this. And that required a lot of teachers, and especially myself, was trying to introduce this or to bring myself in as well, because I was a teacher for a certain amount of time, and my entire planning time was from the time I walked from our department to my classroom. That was my planning, you know, in my head. So it was really sharing that experience with him and taking responsibility. But the big part of introducing this was to bring about a degree of accountability amongst our staff. So if you can have an objective, for example, that's clear and measurable and outcomes-based, at the end of the day, it's not about did the teacher do that, it's did the child receive that. So we also allow for a time where the child can reflect for the teacher. So in life orientation, for example, our lesson plans are put up on the wall at the beginning of each class so that the child can see what it is that the teacher is hoping to achieve for that day, and consequently hold that teacher accountable. It's that open and honest and that transparency that we're trying to shift in terms of our culture shift in our school. So the why took a very, very long time to create a sense and an environment of safety between who it is that's introducing this. Sorry? I have 3 minutes. Okay.
No, you don't have 3 minutes, we have 3 minutes.
Forgive my narcissism, I apologize. Just one last comment. There was a lot of work done in us who's basically introducing this to the staff, and how we did that was to choose a core team and to really engage that core team on the why and the how of this. And with the intent of that core team then taking it through to the HODs, who will then take it through to the departments, who will then take it through to the staff meetings. So it doesn't seem that it's a thing that's coming from central management, for example, you know, or something that is being force-fed on us. So it's a very meticulous process, and it really requires you to take into account that you have to acknowledge the expertise that people come into your organization with. We have to acknowledge the fact that it's human beings that you're engaging with, and that the accountability has to be based on support rather than a punitive measure.